Ever feel like the world is getting smaller? Like, 1 minute you're here, the next, boom, everything's connected. Today's deep dive is going to throw that into sharp relief because we're going to unpack how a real estate trend in Thailand is directly connected to what's happening in China's economy. You'd be surprised how these global dominoes fall, right?
Yeah, definitely. What I find fascinating is how these individual decisions, like someone deciding where to invest their savings, that can snowball into these massive international trends. It's a good reminder that even local markets are often playing on a global field these days.
Right. And the story we're diving into today comes from a blog post by Ocean Worldwide, a Phuket real estate agency. And their headline is pretty bold. Chinese buyers are now the driving force in Thailand's condo market. But, gotta acknowledge, being a real estate agency, they're obviously invested in this market doing well. Still, the trend itself is worth unpacking.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just hype either. This article cites some pretty compelling data points. For example, they say that in some luxury condo developments, Chinese buyers make up the overwhelming majority of owners. That's a huge shift from just a few years ago.
Okay, so there's definitely something happening here. It makes you wonder, why Thailand? Why condos? I mean, the article mentions the usual suspects, good investment opportunities, favorable exchange rates for foreign buyers. Basically, your money goes further in Thailand. But is that the whole story?
It's a big part of it, for sure, especially when you consider China's economic boom in recent decades. As more people have disposable income, they're naturally going to look for places to invest it, and real estate is often a top choice. But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just a Chinese story, or even just a Thailand story for that matter.
Oh, I like where you're going with this. You're saying this is part of a bigger trend.
Exactly. We're seeing similar patterns play out in other markets popular with Chinese buyers, Canada, Australia, even parts of Europe. And while each country has its unique appeal, they all share those common threads: strong economies, stable governance, and of course, attractive real estate markets.
So Thailand's not necessarily unique, but it's definitely riding this wave.
Yeah.
But why condos specifically? You'd think beachfront villas would be the hot ticket.
You'd think so, right? But remember, this is about more than just vacation homes. For many buyers, this is about investment. And condos often present a more accessible entry point to a foreign market. They're generally more affordable than standalone houses. There might be fewer restrictions on foreign ownership. And let's not forget the appeal of a more hands-off investment, right? Someone else worries about the lawn, you just collect the rent checks. Or in this case, maybe Airbnb income.
That's a really good point. Makes you wonder, though, what happens to a place when its real estate market starts catering to outside investors over its own residents?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something we'll explore in depth right after this.
So we're back and ready to dive even deeper into this whole Thailand condo situation. Before we got sidetracked, we were talking about all these Chinese buyers, especially in the condo market. It's easy to see the good stuff like investment pouring in, construction booming, but are there downsides to all this foreign involvement? What do you think?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? And it's not exactly a simple answer. I mean, you've got the potential for economic growth, definitely, job creation too. And hey, maybe a more vibrant, kind of cosmopolitan atmosphere, right? But
Yeah.
there's always a but.
There's always another side of the coin.
Exactly. Like over-reliance on just one source of buyers. That can make a market vulnerable?
So, what happens if China suddenly changes its tune? Or if their economy takes a hit, suddenly those condos aren't looking so hot anymore?
Precisely. Regulations change, economies fluctuate. Any number of things could impact that flow of capital from China. And if Thailand's real estate market is too dependent on those buyers, well, that could spell trouble.
And it's not just about empty buildings, is it? I mean, this article mentions developers designing buildings specifically for Chinese buyers. That's a pretty big commitment to one group of people. What happens to the local communities in all of this?
Oh man, you hit the nail on the head there. That's a whole other layer of complexity we got to unpack because
Yeah.
when you have this concentrated influx of foreign buyers, it impacts everything. Housing affordability for the people who actually live there, changes to the cultural landscape of a neighborhood. It's a lot.
It's not just about empty condos if the market goes south,
Hmm.
right? It's about the potential for these developments to completely reshape the character of a place.
Exactly. And that's not to say change is always bad, but it's something to think about carefully. How do you attract foreign investment without steamrolling over the existing community? How do you balance those needs? It's a challenge a lot of cities around the world are dealing with right now.
Well, speaking of challenges, the article mentions that the Thai government is definitely keeping a close eye on all of this. They even hinted at potential changes to regulations down the line. Sounds like they're trying to walk that tightrope you're talking about.
Oh, for sure. It's a balancing act, no doubt. You want those foreign bucks, but you also have to take care of your own citizens, make sure they're not priced out of their own homes. Make sure their voices are heard over the roar of international money coming in. It's tough.
Are there any other examples of countries that have gone through something similar? I'm curious how they've handled this kind of situation.
Oh, tons. Canada comes to mind immediately. They've been dealing with a huge surge in foreign buyers in their housing markets, particularly in those hot spots like Vancouver and Toronto. They've actually tried a bunch of different things, taxes on foreign buyers, for example, all aimed at cooling down the market and making housing more affordable for their own people. Australia and New Zealand are in the same boat, trying to figure it all out.
So there's no magic solution here. It's about each country finding its own way, weighing the economic good stuff against the potential social and cultural costs. Definitely more complicated than it seems at first glance.
100%. It needs a nuanced approach, that's for sure, taking into account everybody involved, not just the investors.
This is fascinating. Who knew a condo boom in Thailand could be such a perfect example of these bigger global forces at work?
Mhm.
It really makes you realize that even something like a local real estate market is part of this huge interconnected web.
Right. And it just shows how important it is to dig a little deeper,
Yeah.
look beyond those attention-grabbing headlines and try to understand how all these global trends connect. Because it all comes back to us eventually.
Well said. And speaking of things coming back to us, what does this Thailand real estate trend mean for you? We'll tell you right after this quick break. It's amazing how something like condos in Thailand can open up this whole can of worms about, global economics and how we balance foreign investment with what local communities actually need.
It really shows you how interconnected everything is, don't you think? One country's economy takes off and it's like ripples on a pond. Suddenly you've got real estate markets changing halfway across the world. We're not just living in our own little bubbles anymore, that's for sure. It's a global ecosystem.
Totally. This deep dive has given us a lot to chew on, especially if you're into real estate, international markets, or just how the world works, really.
Absolutely. And it all started with that article from Ocean Worldwide, that real estate agency in Phuket, remember? They made it sound like a dream come true, Chinese buyers driving this condo boom in Thailand. But like we've been saying, you gotta look beyond the sales pitch and see the bigger picture.
Exactly. What if things change in China? Their economy takes a hit. What if the Thai government cracks down on foreign buyers? Suddenly that guaranteed investment doesn't look so guaranteed anymore.
That's why you always gotta have your guard up a little, right? Especially with these market reports, especially when someone's clearly got skin in the game. Ask yourself, who benefits from painting this picture? What are they not telling me?
It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true.
It probably is, exactly.
So, for our listeners out there, anyone thinking about investing overseas, what are some red flags to watch out for?
Well, first off, how much does this market rely on foreign buyers? If it's all dependent on one nationality, one type of buyer, that's a bit risky. And then look at the government. What are they doing to protect local buyers? Any chance they might change the rules on foreign investment? Got to keep an eye on that.
Good points. And it's like you were saying before, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Especially in real estate, things can change fast.
Oh, yeah. Diversification is key. But honestly, even beyond the numbers, you got to think about the people, right? How are these developments impacting the people who actually live there? Are they getting pushed out? Are they being heard? Those things matter in the long run for everyone.
This has been eye-opening. We've gone from condos in Thailand to global real estate trends to the ethics of investment. Quite a journey. But as we wrap up, I'm left wondering, if you were calling the shots, how would you balance attracting foreign investment with protecting local communities? Tough question, no easy answers, but something to think about. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time as we explore more of the trends shaping our world.